Today, we have yet another clear-cut example of these influencers spruiking crap for tops and fanatics that completely contradict some of the things these guys have been saying over the last 3 to 4 years. It's an important one to touch on because I think they're going to be made out to be even bigger hypocrites in a few years' time when the shoe goes on Panini's foot. And I'll unpack what exactly I mean by that now. You sort of can maybe get the gist of this by the title, but it does in fact relate to Topps' announcement today at their industry conference where they came out and said Topps Basketball Chrome is returning, or Topps Chrome Basketball. Now this is interesting because obviously they don't have the licenses for these, so they are going to be unlicensed cards. And that's where the talking point comes, because as you can sort of see there on the right, and as you've probably seen all over social media in the last few hours, last day or so, you've basically got people sucking off Topps and saying this thing is amazing, it's the best thing since sliced bread, which is pretty, funny for me, because if you guys paid any attention over the last 3 to 4 years, you will know that people of influence within this space have often talked down Leaf cards, which are unlicensed. They've often talked down, Panini Baseball, which is unlicensed. So it's a bit funny to now see the same people say the complete opposite things purely because Topps is going ahead and doing it. And whilst, this Victor Wembanyama card looks fantastic, I like the way they've done the artwork because it doesn't necessarily look like it's unlicensed. It's just pretty funny to see these people all of a sudden change their opinion completely, right? They've done a 180 on the whole situation purely because Topps is dangling that ball sack in front of their face. And, that might be a crude way to say it, but that's how I look at it right now. It's just crazy to me how, people have talked so much smack about Leaf. They've talked so much smack about Panini Baseball. They've talked so much smack about collegiate cards and why they're worthless and why you shouldn't be buying them, and are now praising essentially the equivalent of the same thing from Topps, right? It's just crazy. I don't get this mindset, and clearly it's because, all of a sudden they're being invited to these conferences and they're rubbing shoulders with, the elite of the hobby. It's pretty funny how easily, people can be bought, and it's one that I think we should be paying close attention to, because what's going to happen when a few years times passed and, Topps all of a sudden producing these licensed cards, are they still going to be excited about the stuff that Panini's producing? Because, one of the things I touched on when all this license shifted from Panini to Topps was the fact that we might actually get some, appreciation for these pajama cards. If you're not sure what pajama cards are, that's how these unlicensed cards are referred to as. And should have clarified, if you're not sure what unlicensed means, it means, producing cards for teams, for players that you can't show the logos or anything like that. Currently, Panini have the agreement with the NBA to produce trading cards. Topps don't. That doesn't shift for a few more years. So at the moment, they have to produce things that don't show any team logos or league logos or anything like that, which is why you can't see like the logo man there. You can't see any NBA logos. Why it doesn't mention the Spurs or anything like that. And it's just one, like I said, to keep front of mind, because obviously, when these licenses shifted, like I just touched on, I sort of alluded to the fact that, okay, maybe we're going to see some competition, right? Because, I'm a collector. Whilst I'm not a huge fan of unlicensed cards, I do like to sort of buy them every now and then because they are typically a lot more affordable, and it's a good way to get autographs and stuff like that. So, the fact that you've got, Topps now winning it, Panini have all these amazing brands like Flawless Prism and all this sort of stuff. It would be a real shame for that to disappear overnight. So my mind was like, okay, well, if everybody's now flocking to Topps because they prefer licensed, I really hope Panini sticks around and still makes things to try and keep some level of competition here, like what we've seen from Leaf. Say what you want about Leaf, but they've done some pretty cool sets with some pretty cool autographs, and Brian Gray did a fantastic job trying to elevate that stuff to the forefront. But people always talk negatively about it. And if you hear the way, some, very high level people within this hobby have touched on it, like Ken Golden as an example, it hasn't always been super appreciative towards Leaf. So it's just really funny. Like you can see Jeff Wilson here. You've got, Dr. Collectible, Card Collector 2, who I will say is one person that's always appreciated unlicensed cards because he chases a lot of collegiate stuff as well. So he's somebody that, is not doing this out of the blue. But, Dr. Collectible, certainly Jeff Wilson in the past has talked about unlicensed cards not being worth buying, but now all of a sudden, because there's a Wemby in there and LeBron's going to be signing and Curry's going to be signing, it's something that we should be trying to chase. It's like, mate, what are you saying today that you weren't saying tomorrow? Like, or yesterday, I should say. Mojo Sports, and it goes on and on and on. You guys would have seen it to death by now, but I just think it's, insane. And, I posted this story earlier. It's got a lot of traction, or at least for my account on Instagram. I don't typically get a lot of traction, but this one's picked up. And I basically said what I've just explained to you. Reminder, guys, all these people sucking off Topps and praising unlicensed cards are the same ones who were telling you they were trash over the last 4 years. And I think the thing that I want to clarify to you all today is just remember this moment, right? In a few years' time, when Panini's in the same, wearing the same shoes as Topps, and they are now having to produce unlicensed cards, let's see if the same people are going bananas for those like they are right now for tops, because, you know, I don't think it's going to happen. And I think it's just another clear example of people, you know, getting preferential treatment, getting favorable treatment from these companies, and all of a sudden they feel really confident and they're, you know, rubbing shoulders with the elites, like I said, and are now shifting their opinion because they're really excited about what's happening, completely forgetting all the smack they spoke about, you know, over the last 3 to 4 years. Now, yes, opinions can change. My opinion has changed multiple times on certain things within this hobby over the last, you know, half decade, or the whole time I've been collecting. Actually, it's just a normal thing to do. Opinions can change, but I'm just getting a gut feeling from a lot of these people that it's not their opinion changing. They're just doing it now because they're either getting paid to talk about it, or because, you know, they're getting that special treatment that I just touched on. So I want you guys to let me know what you think down below, because I just think it's pretty funny. It's just, it's pretty obvious. I don't need to name names. You know, Jeff Wilson is an easy one because he's touched on it a few times about, you know, not buying those things from an investment perspective, but there are so many that it's so obvious I don't need to name names. And maybe I'll put some things in the thumbnail to get a bit of attention and some clickbait stuff, but it's just pretty wild. Like, I've got some here, I'll show you now, like that I hit in a Christmas break. It was for a charity thing that had to do with leaf cards. And, you know, these are unlicensed, but they are pretty cool. So you've got a Jack Grealish auto over here from the Holiday Leaf set. Now, again, no logos on there, but it's a cool thing. It's a you know, sticker auto, yes, but, you know, his autos typically sell for a lot more than what this thing would. So me being a collector, like, why do I care what the card looks like or whether the jersey, you know, emblem's on there? Like, yes, I do to an extent, but, you know, I've always, you know, appreciated this sort of stuff. There's another one over here. I think this is Shade and Sharp. Again, no logos, but pretty cool to have, in my opinion. But people have not talked to it through that lens in the past. And it's those same people now that are saying this thing is just fantastic from Topps, which I think it is. I like the competition. I like the fact they're doing something different. I like the way they've done the artwork, and I like some of these other announcements they've brought out with, you know, other sets. But it's just funny to me. They're going to pump this stuff to the moon. They're going to make it out like you should be buying this stuff and paying premiums and all this kind of thing. And it, you know, scares me a little bit as to what these prices are going to hit, because the way we've seen other stuff go up, they've basically pumped things to the moon. You know, it's pretty clear. Go look on eBay right now and type in unlicensed cards. Go look at the Leaf version of, you know, unlicensed versus the same licensed card for that player, and you're going to see significant deviations in prices. Now, obviously, there are exceptions, because Leaf sometimes do really amazing one-of-ones, or they get some really cool match-worn stuff, or they sometimes get to market first. But again, there's typically a huge price discrepancy. So don't fall into the trap of, you know, FOMO and all that sort of stuff, because these guys are going to go back to shitting on licensed cards, on unlicensed cards, I should say, the second Panini lose their licenses. So that's what I wanted to touch on today, because I thought it was absolutely hilarious. And, like, I'm not surprised, but I am surprised at the same time as how quickly this sort of stuff happened. It's just amazing how quickly people, you know, drop their standards, or drop their, you know, ethics, or drop their credibility because they're getting some special treatment, or they're getting some love from a company. It's just crazy to me. And I really want you guys to maybe, you know, share your thoughts down below. Let me know which of these influencers you think are maybe doing this the worst. But yeah, it is what it is. As always, share your thoughts down below, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.